Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. I am going to do the word leaven now. We're going to examine this and do a biblical exegesis on it, a deeper study. We're just going to read a lot of verses in the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, and we're going to examine the word leaven. The one thing I'd like to point out is I did a video on Passover, and that word is found 73 times in the Bible between the Old Testament and the New Testament, and I thought that was very interesting that the word leaven is found the exact same time, 73. So let's begin. The very first verse that we find the word leaven is in the context of unleavened, and it's Genesis 19:3. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat unleavened bread. Matchstall, unleavened bread, cake without leaven. From in the sense of greedily devouring for sweetness, properly sweetness, concretely sweet, that is, not soured or bitter with yeast, specifically an unfermented cake or loaf, or elliptically, the festival of Passover. Because no leaven was then used, unleavened bread, cake without leaven. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast it with fire, and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. What flesh are they eating? They're eating the Passover lamb. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread, even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day unto the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. Who's Israel? Yisrael. The second name for Jacob given to him by God after his wrestling with the angel at Peniel. The name of the descendants and the nation of the descendants of Jacob. The name of the nation unto the death of Solomon and the split. Solomon. The Masonic temples today are modeled after the Temple of Solomon. But what split happened after the death of Solomon? The name was used and given to the northern kingdoms consisting of the 10 tribes under Jeroboam. The southern kingdom was known as Judah, the name of the nation after the return from exile. So we have Judah, which is the Jews, and that's the bottom 2 tribe of Judah and Benjamin. And the top 10 tribes that were under the rule of Jeroboam, they are Israel. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For in that safe day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe this day and your generations by an ordinance forever. What's the word forever? Olam. Long duration, antiquity, futurity, forever, ever, everlasting, evermore, perpetual, old, ancient, world, ancient time, long ago of past, of future, forever, always, continuous in existence, everlasting. Do we know what forever means? In the first month, on the 14th day, on the month at evening, ye shall eat unleavened bread until 21st day of the month, at evening. Month, let's see what month means. Kodesh, the new moon. Month, monthly, the first day of the month, the lunar month. Genesis 1:14 says that God put the stars, the moon, and the sun there for appointed times. Why? Because that is God's calendar. The stars, and they keep track of the years, the moon keeps track of the months, and the sun keeps track of days. 7 days shall ye eat no leavened bread, and 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your house. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether be a stranger or born in the land. Ye shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitations shall ye eat unleavened bread. And the people took with their dough before it was leavened, their kneading
troughs, being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And they baked unleavened bread cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt. For it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt, and could not tarry, neither had they prepared. And Moses said unto the people, Remember this day in which ye came out from Egypt, at the house of bondage. For by strength of the hand of Yahweh brought you out from this place. There shall be no leavened bread eaten. So let's skip over to the New Testament and see where we find that first. Here we are, our Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus, Jesus. Jesus in English, Yeshua in Hebrew, Jesus in Greek. He's the first one to mention the word leaven in the New Testament. Let's read. It's Matthew 13:33. Another parable which spake he unto them, The kingdom of heaven is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, till the whole was leavened. Very interesting. Then Jesus said unto them, Take heed, and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. How is it that ye do not understand that I spake it not to you concerning the bread, that ye should be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees? Who are the Pharisees? Let's find out. Pharisees, a sect that seems to have started after the Jewish exile. Would that have been the split? In addition to Old Testament books, the Pharisees recognized in oral tradition a standard of belief and life. They sought for distinction and praise by outward observance of external rites and by outward forms of piety, such as ceremonial washings, fastings, prayers, and almsgiving, and comparatively negligent of the genuine piety. They prided themselves on the fancied good works. They held strenuously to the belief in the existence of good and evil angels and the expectation of a Messiah. And they cherished the hope that the dead, after preliminary experience either of reward or of penalty in Hades, would be recalled to life by him, and this be requited, each according to his individual deeds. In opposition to the usurped dominion of the Herods and the rule of the Romans, they stoutly upheld the theocracy of their country's cause and possessed great influence with the common people. According to Josephus, they numbered more than 6,000. They were bitter enemies of Jesus and his cause, and they in turn severely rebuked by him for an arrogance, ambition, hollow reliance on outward works, and affection of piety in order to gain popularity. The separatist, that is, exclusively religious, Pharisee, that is, Jewish sectary. Then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of the bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying unto him, Where wilt thou we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? And he charged them, saying, Take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the leaven of Herod. After 2 days was the feast of the Passover and of the unleavened bread. And the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by the craft and put him to death. It is like leaven which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, till the whole was leavened. Here we are in the book of Acts. The book of Acts is the formation of the early church, and they were still doing Passover and unleavened bread. And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. They were the days of unleavened bread. See, that's when they took Peter. And we sailed away from Philippi after the days of unleavened bread, and came into them to Troas in 5 days, where we abode 7 days. Your glorying is not good, know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us. Therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. Well, I hope that was exciting. I hope that gave everybody listening a deeper look into leaven and what the meaning is from the Old Testament going to the New Testament, combining the doctrines of the Pharisees, the Jews,